is it just me, or do some classic car guys really need to chill out a little bit? Specifically, when these old purists jump somebody's butt on the internet for using new technology in a classic car. Now, don't get me wrong, there is definitely a place for stock purists, and there's also definitely a place for nostalgic or traditional hot rod building. But then we get into stuff like Project X, where they take a 1957 Chevy and they make it an EV. Now, I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not pro-EV or anything like that. I honestly feel that what Edison is doing makes a lot more sense than just going from gas-powered vehicle to an EV. But the problem that I'm having mostly is that the people that are railing the loudest against people putting newer technology into a classic car are the people that were actually there in the 1940s and 50s and should know better. Now let's back up and talk a little bit about the history of hot rodding. Now the history of hot rodding was young kids at the time getting a hold of anything that they could in order to build a hot rod. Those usually being, say in the 1940s, somebody buying a 1920s Ford and using newer technology to make it as fast and as fun as possible. You see it evolve even more into the 1950s when people would take 1940s cars and start updating them with dual headlights and things that were much more stylistically appropriate for the 1950s, the newest technology available. By the 1960s and 70s, things like fuel injection, overhead valve engines, big blocks, things that the engineers would absolutely fall down in shock that you are taking what was essentially a vehicle with a top speed of 45 miles an hour and now breaking 100 miles an hour with it. Say it with me, using the newest available technology at the time. Now, don't get me wrong, there is always going to be somebody out there in the hot rodding industry that is doing something that is just going to not sit well. It's just going to taste like a bag full of dog shit. But we're not asking you to like what they're doing. We're just asking you to understand that that is literally them doing what started this hobby in the first place. So I guess what I'm asking is that the next time you see somebody in a chat room who's maybe building a hot rod that isn't exactly to your taste, hold back and don't just immediately dump some visceral bile of disapproval on them. Instead, understand that you are two people who are taking two different paths to reach the same goal, which is to keep a classic car out of a junkyard and get it back on the road. And heaven forbid, have some fun with it.